Welcome back to the Witch's Way podcast. This is Kat.
And Jamie.
And today we're going to talk about raising resilient children.
That's right. Parenting after trauma. Like, how the fuck do we raise our kids after we've been traumatized?
Yeah.
How do we... I know I didn't want to have kids, actually. I was like, nope, not going to do it.
Well, and my trauma led me to say, I want to have
6
kids really bad. I want 6 just like my mom, but I'm not going to be my mother when I have those 6 kids.
Yeah.
So that's what my trauma
And you
led
had
to.
3.
I had half that, yeah.
I had half that. You stopped with the last one. You're like, and that's a lot. Do you think you could have handled 6 kids now looking back?
Oh, God, no. Hell no. Jesus, no.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
I'm so glad you didn't get what you wanted from the universe.
I'm so glad the universe knew better.
So we're going to be talking about tips for parenting in a way that breaks the cycle of trauma and also promotes resilience within children. And we're going to preface this, like, Kat and I are older, and so we don't have any little kids around anymore. I mean, my son is going to be 19. Giovanni, who's the youngest in the family, he's 15. Mm-hmm. So we're not in the place of raising small children, but what we are still doing is we are still working through parent-child relationships, at me being 44 almost, and you being almost 66, and my sister and my brother, and, like, we're still working through these things. So if your children are already raised and out of the house, don't think that you can't learn something from this, because you really can. And a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about, especially with setting healthy boundaries, you can use this in any situation. Yeah. And you can also give advice or support to young people that you might, work with or be involved with, or your kids' friends or whatever, So that was the preface. Did I get all the preface that I think?
You did. You did a good job with that.
Well,
thanks for
I tried.
Helping our audience understand how,
like, what's
even
next,
even if you're not raising kids,
right.
You're still. I think we're always raising our children.
I believe that. I mean, I don't think I'll ever be done, or at least assisting
guiding
them.
Guiding. Because at a certain age, you're not really raising them anymore, but they do hopefully come to you for advice and ask, talk to you about things that are going on in their life. And, these principles apply, I think, even more
100%.
as they're older.
1,000%.
You can, how many people do you know whose parents end up, taking care of the kids so much that the kids literally fail to launch, as they get older, because they're just too much support from the parents.
Yeah, I don't have all the fancy words like helicopter mom or hover mom or I don't know. But there is a way that we can be a detriment to our kids if we don't give them tools like resilience to become independent and have confidence being independent. They're going to stay close to the nest.
As much as I don't even know what the right word to describe my upbringing is and my parents and all that stuff. But the one thing that I am, when I look back, I'm grateful for about my experience with being raised by my mother, and the way that she did not rescue me. So there was when I was 20 or 21.
I know this story.
I went to jail. I got arrested and went to jail, and I had a 2-year-old. And I called my mother up and said, "Will you go get your grandson?" Because she just loved her grandson so much. And she told me no. And I was shocked, because he was going to go into, like, a foster care situation. And she's like, "You made your bed, you lie in it." And I was just like, from that point on, I knew that I didn't have anybody to fall back on. And so it made me choose different things along the way to make sure that I was never put in that situation again where I had to rely on somebody else, especially because there wasn't really anyone else. You usually just have your family,
right?
You don't have, like, a big group of friends. But I don't know why does that have anything to do with that's a boundary that my mother set with me.
Well,
she's like, I'm not gonna rescue you from your mistakes. You made, and I know I use that phrase with my own kids. You made your bed, you lie in it. I know I did.
Yeah. I always pictured a bed. I was so literal, I was like, I made my bed, I lie in it. That doesn't sound like a bad thing. Why does this feel like a bad thing?
Well, and I think that you do have to let your kids learn those hard lessons, and that's part of your boundary
Making
as a
mistakes.
parent.
Yeah.
To have a boundary that you're not going to
save them all the time.
Save them all the time.
Yeah, that's where you were going, because we were talking about
the
helicopter mom thing, where it's like you will have to let your kids make mistakes in order to learn their own lessons, because that's what truly sticks.
Yeah.
You telling somebody, oh, if you do this, this is going to happen. Like, you can have a concept of it a little bit. And you can be like, oh, yeah, I could play that out in my head. But you don't know what it feels like until you make that mistake and you go through the things with it. Mm-hmm. And that's what not letting your kids pay for their mistakes, own their mistakes, however you want to put it.
I remember when you kids were little, there was some doctor, he said something to the effect of, it's about letting them experience. He didn't use the word consequences, though.
Being uncomfortable.
The results of their actions. So the example was like the kids who don't want to put their coat on because it's cold outside to go to school. Like, I don't want to wear my coat. Yeah. Well, I would make my kids wear their coat. And the doctor, whoever this doctor was, like, let him go to school without his coat.
Let him do it one day.
They'll learn that they need the coat, and that's why you said wear the coat. So I was like,
it'll be their decision instead of being told.
Consequences. That's what it was. Natural consequences. That's what it was.
I love that.
That's what it was called.
Yeah.
So it was a parenting thing, This was after Dr. Spock, so that was when I was a kid.
Dr. Spock? Mom.
Okay.
I never heard that.
Okay. Well, I'm going way back.
Brief. What the hell is Dr. Spock?
Dr. Spock was a child psychologist that was, giving parents advice probably in the early 70s. Yeah.
Because when I was growing up, you listened to a lady, Dr.
Laura Schlesinger, Dr. Laura.
Oh, I got it so wrong. I said Ruth.
I love Dr. Laura.
Jolene and I used to be in the back seat when you'd be listening to it, like making the as she's going on, and we're just like, golly,
I loved her.
There were probably great things going on, but just talk radio when you're a kid is not fun.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Shoot, I was just thinking of something else I needed to preface, and I forgot.
Okay, well.
It's going to come up. It'll come up. I'll remember when we're going through stuff.
All right, so you just heard a few stories there about us, but I guess we'll get on to our very first
how do we start parenting after trauma? All right. Oh, I know what the preface was. That reading the thing.
Okay, go ahead.
This is also sort of a part 2, if you will, to the first podcast, which was Breaking Generational Curses. So in that podcast, we talked about how your family and your parents' stuff sort of can become your own trauma. And so now we're even looking further down to moving from us down to our children, or, whether they're stepchildren, adopted children, doesn't matter. They're being raised around you and your influences. So that was the other thing. I think a lot of the points that we made in that first podcast, Breaking Generational Curses, is like, it's a segue into this one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that was it. That's what I remember.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. So, Mom, how is it that we are going to address helping people parent after experiencing traumas?
Well, I think the first thing is to, put yourself first. Like in the airplane, it's always like put your oxygen mask on first before you try to help somebody else.
Yeah.
So, personal healing, which is what I feel the witchcraft journey is about for me as a spiritual path, is about healing. Healing foundational, shit that went back so far back. It's from your birth or maybe pre-birth, but personal healing, this is what's at the foundation of breaking cycles of trauma. And in our last podcast last week, we talked about how journaling your feelings and thoughts and being able to recognize your own patterns can really help you heal from that and move on to a better place, I guess you would say.
Yeah, right. I think in order to have the awareness and take care of yourself and put your own oxygen mask on first, that means becoming self-aware of your feelings and thoughts and kind of what you've been through. And so that's why, starting with you healing first.
Feelings, thoughts, patterns, behaviors, things that you see that in yourself that you realize are not helpful, that are not making your life and the people that you love and care about, your kids or your grandkids or whoever, you might see old patterns creep in from, your upbringing,
Yeah.
or the way you brought up your children if
Yeah.
you're older. So that's paramount. So it's like, don't start with the kiddos, start with you.
Yeah.
And also, I think to be an example, like, you don't have to be fully healed to be able to emulate this behavior. I told Jamie before we got started, I probably shouldn't have been allowed to have kids because I was such a wreck. And she's like, but you weren't.
Yeah.
So apparently I did okay. It was, but I went into.
She did great with what she had.
Well, there's a statement for you.
Right? I mean, that's all you can do, though. I think that's how we should always look at our parents or the people that we're in relationships with. And that's why later when we talk about healthy boundaries, listen, they can only do as good as they can do right then with what they got.
That is so
You got to meet
true.
people where they're at. And not hold them to these high expectations, like, why aren't you the fucking perfect mom? Why are we not living the Brady
Brady Bunch.
Brady Bunch life?
Yeah.
It's hard for a dyslexic to say.
Well, and also, you make a really good point. And if nothing else, you need to have compassion and grace toward yourself, because you're not the perfect parent.
Yeah.
You don't have every single thing figured out, because it's a process.
You want to hear something that I'm sure I've told you before, but I think it's really important that I now put this out to the entire universe. The whole fucking world can hear this. One of the reasons that I never did anything to make your life harder, and it was a conscious choice all the time, because I already knew the fucking stuff you were dealing with. And you told me stories, and I listened to you. I took all that in, and I was like, why would I ever do anything to make my mom's life harder? Like, I'm going to try to make my mom's life easier. Do the laundry, do the dishes, make my sister snacks or dinners or whatever the fuck. I was like, I'm in this with you. That's how I felt when you were going through all the things that I knew about your mom being fucked up. Like, I felt like it happened to me too,
Okay, so here's a boundary that I probably could have set with myself a long time ago and not told my daughter about every single thing that was wrong in my fucking life. So
I'm not going to say it didn't give me anxiety. It did.
Because you took that on. And, and I know that you were, I thank you for that habit. But then I look at it and go like, ooh, that was probably more than I should have put on a little kid, young. Because I'm sure that those talks started when you were probably 12 years old, as soon as you started coming in any kind of maturity, and we started spending a lot of time together.
Yeah, always on our drives.
And on drives, always in the car.
That's what happened with me and Cam, though. So that's a generational thing between me and my mom. We would always have these deep conversations in the car. And then I started that with my kid, but I started so much younger. He was like 2. Like, so young. We'd talk about anything and everything he wanted to.
So, we talked, this has just come out. I didn't have any notes on this. Like, these stories they come up, as
you think about them.
We're sitting here looking at each other across the couch, and just stuff pops into your head. So it's kind of crazy that none of this is in our notes.
That's okay.
But, so what led you to recognize some of your own?
For me?
I think I shared some of them. I think I did. Yeah. I hope I did. It made sense. But
it all comes out as we talk. So what led me to recognizing my own emotional or behavioral patterns while I was parenting Cameron? Mm-hmm. Gosh, you know what? I'm not sure if I had an answer for that at all. All right, let me think about it. What happened to make me realize it? I think...
Or were you proactive? You might have been proactive in recognizing that you already grew up in a semi-chaotic or at least struggling environment with a single mother and a stepfather and then a father in prison. Okay, so that was your background. So you already knew. Yeah. You had the emotional intelligence, which is coming up.
Okay, so I think that mine is so different because I was already in my spirituality 6 years before I had Cameron, right? Oh, okay. I had all this time to practice with tarot, numerology, astrology. Oh, okay. I had all these tools. So
I wish I had.
I'm so glad
I wish I'd been aware to know to do all this stuff. It would have been so helpful.
So I knew, I knew what number I wanted him to be, as if I could fucking control the day my baby comes. I could have, I guess. I could have scheduled it. But
What number did you want him to be?
I wanted to be a 7 like me, of course.
Oh, a 7. So we're talking about numerology.
Numerology, yeah. I chose his name. I counted every letter. I knew what he was going to be missing for his karmic debts. I knew what his personality was going to really entail. And so what's so weird, I guess, I talked to him in the womb all the time and was telling him like the things that we would do. And I knew while I was pregnant, I felt it while I was pregnant, that I was probably going to be a single mom, because I was so strong and Cameron's dad was just kind of lacking in strength for me. I was like, you're not man enough for me. Like, I don't want to say that, but you're just not family man enough for me. That's a better way to say it. You're not family man enough for me.
Yeah.
Like, we can be friends. We're cool. Like, I don't mind hanging out with you. I have good conversations, but you're not somebody I want my son to be like.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time I did not want a girl for the life of me. I was like, please don't do it. And even when they told me I was having a boy, I was like, I don't believe it. I just know I'm going to get cursed with a girl. Like, I got air quotes up, cursed with a girl. I was like, I'm so unprepared for a girl. I was like, I can handle a boy.
I did not want girls. I wanted 3 boys.
Oh, see? I got that from you then.
And then I had a boy and 2 girls, but I did get 3 grandsons, so the universe delivered.
Oh man, so maybe Cameron will have 2 boys then, because that's what I wanted.
Could be.
And then Jolene's boys are gonna have all girls because that's all she wanted.
I know.
That could be fun. So I really had a head start with things because I was already sort of enlightened and I already knew what I was doing. I had a direction. And the other benefit to me is that I was very aware of my upbringing and my lack of knowledge of what good parenting might look like. I was like, I didn't get a lot of examples of it, or I was unsure. What I knew for certain is that you loved me like fucking to the next universe and back. Like, I felt love as a child. That was never a question. I was never unloved. But all the other stuff, how to discipline, how to make things go smoothly, how to talk, when to do the talks, what are we doing here, how to fucking how to direct their life. My life got directed out of necessity. It was like, we got no money, better figure out what you're gonna do. I was like, I'll join the military, I'll get money, I can do whatever the fuck I want. So that was harder. I didn't have any of those skills. I was like, I don't know how to help him become.
I think it was just for me at that, after all the things I'd gone through and not having a resolution to so many of the emotional things that I'd gone through, just to be able to raise my kids to say I knew that I was loved is, I feel like, a success for me. It was the one thing that I did not feel growing up.
Yeah.
But, when I look back, of course, if I'd had other tools, perhaps I could have helped you understand boundaries and things like that. But, I did things like, so I was molested, and I made sure that I was talking to my kids when they were very young about people touching them and stuff like, really body. Young. And then I did not stop talking about it. And especially when the girls got a little bit older to where they're like prepubescent. And, this is about the time when that happened to me, and I just wanted to make sure they knew, and so I warned them, and I think I scared.
No, you said don't be scared, be cautious. That was our motto during that time, because scared people I know I talked about it a lot. So we were always so careful. We played like
that was the one thing I didn't want my kids to have to go through that. So I made sure that I talked about it, because of course in the 60s, late 60s, even early 70s when this happened to me, people didn't talk about it. Parents didn't talk to their children about it. This happened right under my parents' nose, and they didn't even know. So
did they ever find out?
Oh yeah, they did find out. Yeah.
What was the reaction then? Like, what happened?
Oh, well, they took me straight down to the police station and
at least they acted well and not like, it didn't happen.
No,
or something.
They didn't. No,
that's good.
God, no, they didn't do that. And then the man went to prison. So. Yeah.
And was this the guy that had done this to many girls in the neighborhood?
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Yeah, like a Uncle Bob next door or some kind of thing.
Grandpa, everybody called him Grandpa.
Fucking Grandpa.
Grandpa, yeah. And he would have little girls in the neighborhood sit on his lap, and he would buy us ice cream and shit like that. And then he would
And this is why you have 0 pictures of me ever scented on Santa Claus's lap. I would fucking never. I'm not sitting on the Easter Bunny's lap. I'm not sitting on anybody's fucking lap. I don't even like to sit on the guy I'm with's lap. It just feels dirty and wrong now. Like the mental image, you know?
Oh my God. Yeah.
No, I hated it. When they tried to make Cameron sit on Santa's lap when he was really little, the whole time I was uncomfortable. I didn't like it.
And that's probably because I scarred you from my
I mean, I just, you know, I was like,
creeped out,
why
right?
the fuck do you want to be Santa? What's wrong with you? You like little kids sitting on your lap? Like, I became this really...
Well, you know, it is pretty intimate. I mean, when you think about it, you know, their legs are open. You know, you're straddling them with your...
Well, you're not straddling. You're like sitting on one knee.
Well, no, you're sitting on one leg and your
legs are between their legs?
Yeah, and your legs are between there.
They mostly do outward facing now that I've seen.
Oh, okay.
But it was huge in the South. I lived in South Carolina when Cameron was little. And if you didn't go get a picture of Santa and your kid, you were like, what the fuck's wrong with you? So, you know, I went and I didn't want to. Oh, Tank's joining the podcast. He's here watching and making sure nobody comes to the house.
Yeah.
All right, moving on because we got into a lot of conversations that was just
we really did. We got off topic just a little bit.
Always. So, you know, I want to talk to you guys about this thing, emotional intelligence, and I didn't learn about it until I was going through my psych degree. I understood once you hear it, you'll be like, "Oh, I know what that is," but there's a word for it now. And if you want to do more research on it or like look it up, it can really help you uncover things that are going on in relationships and with other people. Because as we said in one of our last podcasts, it's like, I just thought people were stupid. And they're not. They just have less awareness. Mm-hmm. It's like they haven't had a chance to grow this part of themselves. So, listen, emotional intelligence, which often in like columns and places you look at it, it's EI. You know, you have AI, artificial intelligence. This is emotional intelligence. It refers to the ability to like recognize, understand, manage, and even influence both your emotions and the emotions of others. So empathy, right? Emotional intelligence is being able to have empathy for other people in situations. The skill that you gain when you have emotional intelligence, which is basically awareness of your emotions, is that you can regulate your responses instead of being like taken over by anger or sadness or whatever the fuck flows over you. Like it's just about you being a little bit more in control of yourself, which is one of the things we learned last year from a song, right? Which stands for woman in total control of herself. Any of these practices that you can put in, he has to do 3 spins before he's comfortable.
Okay, so if you hear any rustling, it's Tank.
It's Tankies.
It's Tank trying to get comfortable next to me.
He's trying to spin and tuck his butt and do all the little things.
He's got a little spot here on the couch. Come on, buddy, lay down.
So emotional intelligence is really key for being self-aware, for becoming self-aware, for being able to communicate effectively, because we got all these cues within emotions and language that we're saying and perceiving. You know, it's not just about the words that we say. That's why emails and text messages can be misconstrued so much.
Oh my gosh, so much.
Because there's no emotional intelligence in them. You don't know how to read it, you know?
Right.
You can't tell if somebody was smiling when they wrote the thing or they were scowling and they're mad. You know,
sometimes you can tell when people are talking that they're at least smiling. You sort of can.
You can hear it.
You can hear it.
That's what I'm saying. In emails and text messages, you can't because there isn't any of that, right?
Yeah. Well, I didn't have any emotional intelligence, I feel like, you know.
I know. I hear you say that. And I was like, I don't know how to say, yes, you did, but I don't know.
Yeah. I just don't. I don't know. Yeah, I can't really relate.
Did you have empathy for other people?
I did, yeah, because I think if you don't have empathy, you're kind of a sociopath, aren't you?
The world today would have you believe that, but empathy is when you're able to see something from somebody else's point of view. Yeah. Can you control when you do that? If somebody does something wrong to you, do you feel offended? Wall goes up, fuck you, buddy? Or is it more like, that's man. Me. Okay, so that's lacking
I'm
going to
say
bit.
That was me.
That was you.
That was me. It's not me anymore. But yeah, there was a time when it was, when I was younger, because again, you know, when you haven't processed through all your shit and dealt with it and healed from it, that's the wall
that's
I put up.
Lacking. Yeah, that's more of the lacking, the emotional intelligence to know like, oh, they're having a bad day. I don't have to absorb that. You can just like observe it and move the fuck on and be like, Hope your day gets better. I used to say smart ass things to people like that, thinking I was all coy and shit. And then people get angrier, and I was like, that probably wasn't the right thing to do. I should just stay quiet.
It's kind of passive aggressive, isn't it? I mean, did you really mean it, or were you just like...
I needed to say something back.
While you were like, so have a nice day while you were flipping them off?
No. I didn't want to provoke anything, but it was just like...
Flipping them off in your head then.
I wanted them to see that they're not going to be in control of me by saying something rude and ugly.
Yeah.
That's it. I'd be like, yep, have a nice day. All right. Bye. I don't know. It probably wasn't always sweet and stuff, but yeah. So I think in mastering our own emotional intelligence, it helps us building emotional intelligence in children. And that's what we're really looking at, right? We're being that role model, being that person that the kids can see, oh man, mom's changed. Like, I've noticed you've changed so much. So
this can happen even when your kids are all the way grown up and living out on their own with children of their own and married and all of that. If you change and you develop emotional intelligence or this
awareness,
awareness of how the words that you say, the words that come out of your mouth, the tone that you take, if they see you changing, then you can change and they can recognize it. Especially, I think, as adults, they're like, something's going on here, right? I really like what this witchcraft stuff is doing to you. Stick with it.
Yeah. It's like, wait, are you high, drunk, or on witchcraft? What's happening? Those are the options now.
I like that.
What altered your mood? One of 3 things did it. We're looking at each other. We're both going to talk.
So emotional intelligence is key to resilience because you know who you are without people on the outside accepting you, agreeing with you, or even liking you.
Yeah.
Teaching children how to identify and express their emotions helps them build confidence and cope with challenges in a healthy way.
Yeah.
I think I just kind of, how the mother bird like boosts the little birdies out of the nest and be like, bye.
Boost them?
Or kicks them out of the nest?
Boost them.
Well, whatever. I don't know what she does. Does she kick them out of the nest?
No.
She doesn't?
She leaves them to starve, and if they don't leave, they don't eat.
Oh, okay.
So much healthier.
That's the kind of... See, so when we talk about teaching your children, building confidence, that was the method that I used to build confidence.
You just shoved us out of the nest? You're like, look, it's easy, go.
I left them to starve. It's like, listen, you've watched long enough. If you weren't paying attention, it's your own fault.
Yeah.
You know what? You better figure it out.
You better figure it out.
And guess what? They all did.
We didn't starve.
They were all paying attention
Yeah.
on all the times, and I didn't think that they were listening to me. They were actually able to go out into the world and survive and thrive. Wow.
Kids are sponges. This is something that was really funny. That they mimic you when you don't even realize that they're like taking everything in. And I'll never forget it. I was in the military, you guys. Our family loves to cuss. F-bombs everywhere. I mean, we're very transparent about being able to cuss because it's just part of our normal language. We're not offended by it. We're not offended when other people do it. It's just, it's like an exclamation point in the middle of a sentence when you say fuck. It just means you really mean it. So when I was driving home, and we've already talked about my road rage, so no more on that.
Okay.
I just being pissed off at people and yelling in my own car, never yelling at other people or confronting them or doing anything crazy. Just like it was in my own world. I could just say, fuck you and what the fuck are you doing, idiot, and whatever. My little son, my little baby boy, when he was just 1 year old and maybe 4 months, I am driving down the street. And I had really bad habits of saying, like, things even about women. Like, I bet it's a fucking girl driving. Because they would be bad drivers. They just were. I don't say that anymore. Now I don't even look. Because now I got to deal with, like, much older people who either don't drive all the time or whatever the fuck. Yeah. So anyways, but back then in South Carolina, it was always these young female drivers that literally couldn't drive. Whether they were on their fucking phone, I don't know what they were doing. I don't know. So then I would see a bad driver and I'd be like, yeah, it's probably a fucking girl. And then I would say things like, get out of the way, bitch, or something like that, right? Like, this is me in a car.
Oh, my God.
Unhinged. So one day I was driving saying the same things I always say, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Move. Like, what are you doing? Get off your phone. Like, just very angry. And I said, just move already, right? And Cameron from the back seat, his little tiny, barely 1.5-year-old voice, yeah, bitch. And when he said, yeah, bitch, like on top of my insult to whatever was going on, I was like, I need to change right now. And like, I didn't laugh. I didn't even address it. I was just like, that's my fault. That's not on him. We're just gonna. And so I stopped cussing for like 7 years. Till I moved to Florida. Till 2013. I stopped cussing around my kid.
I don't know that I ever did, but maybe. I don't remember.
Well, I don't know if you remember when I was like 8, I got in trouble for calling my brother a fucker. And I got chased down the street, like...
By who, me?
You.
No, I don't remember that.
Oh, my God.
Chased down the street?
Yes, on the street in Edwardsville, in Kansas City.
Well, I chased you down the street? No, you're exaggerating.
No, you came after me. And you were like, if you don't get your motherfucking ass back here right now. And I was just like, no. And we stopped in the street and stared at each other. And I was like, mm-mm. And you were like, come here. And I was like, mm-mm. I already knew I was getting the soap in the mouth. Like,
And did you?
No, you were too exhausted. You sent me to my room without dinner. That was it. It was like, go there and think about what you did.
And after I chased her down for saying fuck her to her brother, then I'm like, get your motherfucking ass in here.
Yeah, get your motherfucking ass over
Mom.
here. And then I was glad I went to bed without dinner and not like with a spanking or no soap in the mouth or anything. So I was like, gladly.
Did I do soap in the mouth?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you and Chuck, but
okay.
Yeah. Remember the time we had an entire closet full of Irish Spring soap because he was a truck driver?
And
that was the soap that I like.
Yeah.
At first it wasn't Irish Spring, but then for the next 4 years it was all Irish Spring soap. So I can't even touch that shit.
Yeah.
Because I've had it on my teeth too many times.
I don't remember doing that. So because I think that's freaking gross. But anyway.
Well, you did it. The way you did it was stick out your tongue and you rub it on the tongue. Oh. He would make us bite down and then he would pull the soap out. And then he would make you sit there and you'd be like foaming at the mouth, trying not to swallow it.
Fuckhead. I hate him. Sorry. No, I don't.
I learned so much.
No, I don't.
He was the villain in our story to push us
I have to take
this
that
far.
back.
Yeah.
I don't hate him, but when I hear stories like that,
I know
it brings up a little bit of rage, kind of like bile in my throat. Yeah. That makes me really mad.
I know. I get it.
Anyway, off track again.
So many off tracks. Practicing emotional check-ins. I think this is really good. Okay, so that's one of the things that I wrote down that comes from like the psych degree stuff is having these emotional check-ins, because I think a lot of times when I was raising a son and I had his father wasn't really part of the program, he didn't like it if Cameron would cry, right? Boys don't cry. So we had all these things we were battling against, and I was like, boys do cry, men should cry, everybody should fucking cry. It's a normal human response to things. So these emotional check-ins that I would have with Cameron, if he was mad, it was like, okay, tell me about your madness. Like, what happened? You know, what made you upset? And so it would allow him time to talk about his feelings, and then after he talked about it, he was usually done. He's like, let's go play. I don't care anymore. Like, he just didn't care about it. He's like, fine, I got it out. It's done. So having emotional check-ins where both like the parent and the child name and discuss their feelings, it really opens up this like very healthy communication and sort of holding space for each other of like, when you ask, how was your day today? It's a real conversation. Like, what happened? You know, like, did you, what was the best thing? What was the worst thing? Like, what would you have changed? And just as you ask questions, you start uncovering more things about their day. Yeah. So you can start with, how was your day? But everybody's same response we're programmed for. It was fine. It was okay. You know,
yeah, you have
ask
to get
other things.
You have to get specific, dig into it a little bit. Like, how was the beach? Oh, it was good. What'd you guys do? Did you cook?
What'd you find? Out? What'd you see?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
Yeah. What was the most interesting thing that happened? What was your favorite part? You know, just asking better questions to get them to open up. And there's not any judgment and there's not an expectation on it. It's just like, you want to know about them. You want to hear what's going on with them. And I think an important reminder is that when your kids open up, resist the urge to solve any of their problems. Like if they're like, yeah, Johnny kissed Susie and now I'm pissed off, or whatever the fuck. I don't know. You brought something up like that the other day. I was like, what? Sounds like we're reading an old 50s book. Holding the space and just listening, because, you know, when you talk through things, you solve your own problems sometimes,
Yeah.
it's cathartic, it's a release, it's just they feel safe to express themselves to you, and you're not trying to change it. They don't have to like, oh God, every time I talk to mom, she's always trying to fix the things.
And
like
this goes with adult children too.
Oh, for sure.
This
goes with your spouse.
When Jolene was younger, probably when she was first a mother, and she was a young mother like me, 19 years old, she had her first one. And then she had her second one like 4 years later. But I would want to try to, save her from whatever,
Yeah.
And she just, she was not open really to listening. I think she listened some. Maybe she listened
She
sometimes.
took it in, but didn't use
but
it.
she didn't. But,
Maybe. Is that how
it's
you feel?
always been, I feel like with my children at least, that they always, even though I would try to keep them from some lesson that I already knew, I already saw where this was going, right? This decision that you're about to make.
You said lesson, but you mean mistake.
Yeah. Well, I knew what was going to happen. I knew where this path was going, and I would try to don't go that way because this is what's going to happen. They had to learn on their own. Very rarely was I ever successful in stopping them from doing something, and
that you believed was a mistake.
That I believed was a mistake.
And that you knew the outcome.
And that I felt like I knew fairly certain was going to, because, once you've already done it yourself, you're like, oh, I did that one time. I know how that goes.
Yeah.
The key then is to not say, I told you so. But what I think what I took away from that is like they were super independent and they had to learn their own path. And there's
learn their own
a
lessons.
sense of, for me, there was a sense of pride in raising these kids who were like so determined to make their own path in the world.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's a bad thing. Of course, there is a balance. I guess you just be there when they bounce back, but not to the point of rescue.
Right. You don't save them from the shit they got themselves into. There's a big difference between saving and supporting. And this is where healthy boundaries really lie, is that understanding when you're relieving them of their responsibility of the mistake that they made versus giving them a little bit of help, directing them in a good area. I think that we just do our best. There is no right or wrong with that. You fucking live and learn.
You do.
Sometimes you do a lot. Sometimes you do a little, and you're like, oh, did it work out? Which way did it go?
And it's, when your kids are getting up and out of the house, and maybe when they're even out of the house, like we think we can see into what their future is going to be. We think we can see the future, and we want to save kids from their mistakes or any mistakes. But then, if we don't allow them, so I'm trying to think of a situation where do we know somebody who didn't let we probably know of people though who protected their kids from everything, and then they get to adulthood and they're like, gosh, I've never been, I don't know what to do here because I don't have any practice dealing with adversity or
I've never stood on my own
hard situations or having a mind like going, well, this is what I'm gonna do, and not doubting themselves, maybe doubting
that confidence to move forward with their own decisions without looking to somebody else to be like, is this the right one that I'm making? It's a fine line.
It is a fine line.
We all go through that in some way because we try to gather experiences before we jump off the bridge, right? Or we try to gather other people's the other people's experiences before we decide to jump off the bridge. You're like, so what happened? How fast did you go? Did you hit the water? Like, did your bungee work? Yeah, like what happened afterwards? Was it exciting? Was it worth it?
Yeah.
All of you usually
you were talking actually about the bungee cord jumping off the bridge.
I don't know, just in general, it could be,
that shit hurts, man.
I've never done it. I'm not sure I would.
Listen, I just jumped off a little bitty cliff whitewater rafting in Colorado with John.
Like you just did that not long ago?
Well, I did this when Julian was a couple years old, so it's been almost 20 years ago, but it was the first time I'd ever done that, like jump off. That was a thing, we're out rafting, you jump off this cliff and everybody's like, oh yeah, you dive down, and I was scared. It didn't look like it was that far down till you got up there, and then when you look down, it's like, I'm gonna jump into here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did. It actually hurts to hit the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
It hurts when you hit the water like that. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. Why are people doing this? This is not fun.
Adrenaline rushes. No, I'd rather jump out of a plane with a parachute, honestly.
Oh my God.
That seems so much safer than jumping so close to the ground near water and rocks and all the things that could go wrong where you just like plummet. I just think that's it. Okay, the last point that I want to make about this really before we move on is if and when we save our kids from mistakes, if that's what we're planning on doing, because you really don't want to see them go down that hard road or whatever you think it is, because I do think that's a mistake parents make. We always think we're like, I can see what's coming for you if you choose that.
That's
and
true.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what the universe has set up for them. This is how I maintain my sanity, is remembering that Cameron is his own soul with his own path, with his own lessons that he needs to learn one day.
That's something that's a new concept. That's a fairly new concept to me since getting into this journey of witchcraft, is like recognizing and actually like really believing that other people that are here, including our children, our spouses, our parents, whoever, all these people around here, everybody, we're all here we have lessons to learn here.
That we came here to learn. We want to.
We can't save other people from them as hard as we try. And I've been rescuing little birds with broken wings, and this is
AKA men.
AKA men. My whole life, trying to save them from those. And anyway, so that's a big
tough.
one. That's a big one.
It's tough.
Is recognizing or realizing and accepting.
Yeah.
That your children, even your adult children,
they are
here.
Independent of you.
Yeah.
And it never feels that way. Like, it will always feel like your babies,
Always.
But what I want you to, as witches, as people who believe in things like, energy and intentions and like just sort of how we approach everything spiritually, remember that if you make all their decisions for them, and if you are there trying to protect them from everything, you never allow them to start trusting their own intuition and listening to what their feelings are inside. They'll always be looking for this external validation of, I can't make this decision on my own. I should call my mom. I should call my sister. I should call my grandma, whoever. Mm-hmm. Like, they're never going to feel that confidence of, I've tested this. I've worked through my own emotions and what my gut says, and I've followed it.
Yeah.
And now I'm honing, right? You're constantly honing, like, oh, this feeling is usually right. This leads me in the right direction. I can trust that.
Yeah.
And they're building trust in themselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's really scary, but we definitely need to give kids freedom to make mistakes, own them, and then help them recover in whatever ways that you can, And I never mean with money or stuff or a place to live. I mean by holding space, listening to them, talking to them. That's the experience. They don't need stuff to save them. They need experiences with you. They need your wisdom. They need your insights. They want your company.
Yeah, and to know that you're not going to hold their mistakes against them.
That's right.
I think
that
that's important. That you love them.
That you still love them.
That you love them,
in spite
always,
of.
Always.
Yeah. So I don't know where I wrote this, but I wrote it in here. I have a really hard thing that I have to say to my son, because he started acting up when he was about 14, and it came as such a shock to me, because I thought up until he was 14 he was like me, not a troublemaker, super sweet kid. He's like 6'2", and he was like 250 pounds, and everybody's like, play football, hurt people, smash things, and he's like, I'd like to go paint or do pottery or do anything musical. So he's like the art and music kid, even though he looks like he'd be a football player. And that was always hard for him, the expectation that people wanted him to be something that he wasn't. And it made him feel less than. But when he started acting up at 14, I had to tell him, I said, I do not like what you're doing. And he's like, you hate me. I said, no, I don't hate you. I love you. I'll always love you, but I don't like what you're doing. So I can love you and not like the decisions you're making. That's real,
Yeah.
And I reinforced that. I had to say that to him so many times because he did not get it. He kept saying, no, you're saying you don't like me. I said, no, I'm saying I love you. I don't like your decisions. I don't like your actions. I don't like your behaviors.
Yeah.
Because all those things are changeable. Behaviors, decisions, actions, all changeable. Who you are, I'll always love that person. I know who you are internally,
Yeah.
So that was an important thing that we had when Cameron was going through really hard times. And I still say it to him now. Like, I don't have to like you to love you. I can love you forever, but I don't have to like what you're doing, Yeah. I don't know where that's at, but it's in here somewhere. We're going to be moving right on to setting healthy boundaries. You want to take that one?
Sure.
I gotta like wet my whistle. I'm talking so much.
So, well, I think this is. Did you tell the playground story yet?
I may have passed right over the top of that.
Because I think this might come in. So there's a story about a playground, but
no, it's up after.
I thought it was in here.
Oh,
Anyway,
shit. Where is it?
So
It's in this one. Sorry.
So trauma happens when boundaries are crossed, physical, emotional, and mental. I have lots of examples of that, but moving on. If it happens repeatedly, it is an abuse pattern.
Right.
I have stories for that, but moving on. Breaking the cycle of trauma and abuse involves learning to set and respect boundaries.
Set and respect boundaries.
Set and respect boundaries.
Yeah.
And not just with yourself, but with your kids. Children raised...
With everybody.
Yeah, with everybody.
With everybody.
It's something you either do or you don't do. I feel like it took me a long time to get to that point. But children raised with clear and consistent boundaries are better at controlling their impulses and anger, and they have healthier relationships. They feel safe and secure, which helps grow their confidence and self-worth. You were just making that point about how, reinforcing with Cameron's like, I love you. I know who you are, but I don't like your decisions.
I don't like your actions.
I don't like your actions. I don't like
your choices.
I don't like your choices. I don't like your attitude. Yeah.
I don't like what you say to me. No, he usually didn't say anything too bad. It was more like just gone. He would run away. I was like, well, I did that, I guess.
So the story that you're going to tell about the playground or the schoolyard rather, was that something that you learned from your psych classes?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah, in the research about like why boundaries are good and how some people think that boundaries are another way to
fence us in and control us?
Yeah, or like you're not validated if you cross somebody else's boundary, like your feelings aren't valid. And that's not true. It's like each person gets to set where they're comfortable, and if you guys can't meet in the middle and talk about it, then just don't. But you don't have to like go outside of what's healthy for you just to get somebody else to hear you. Just walk the fuck away from them. But you got to have that boundary. It's not up to the other person to be like, I don't want to talk to you about this. You got to be able to control yourself and be like, you know what? I don't need to be involved in this. I'm just going to walk away. And you'd be okay because that's your boundary.
Sometimes it's a time thing where it's like, I can't talk about this right now because I'm too...
That's in here.
Because I'm too emotional and things are going to come out and I'm going to say things that I'm going to regret.
Yeah.
That's big. That's control and a boundary.
I'm telling
yourself.
you.
Yeah.
So when children are raised with clear and consistent boundaries, right? Like they know, they understand. This is where the story comes in with the playground fence. They're better at controlling their own impulses and anger because they understand what a boundary is, what it looks like when it's crossed. People who grow up in trauma places, abuse patterns, we don't always know what a healthy boundary looks like. We just know what safe feels like. So safe is when everybody else is happy and nobody's yelling at you. That turns into people pleasing, which is one of the things that I had to overcome. I wanted everything to be safe and secure, so I was always looking at who's unhappy, how can I make them happy, how can I get everybody to be okay. The fucking peacemaker, right?
Yeah, I remember.
People pleaser, peacemaker. So, but when kids are raised with the healthy boundary, they can be like, you know what? I don't want to be part of this situation. I mean, that's so fucking bold. I love that. I wish I had had a voice to say, I'm not going to be a part of this. I want out. I want to step out. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be responsible for everybody's happiness, you know, at 13 years old. Like, why? Why should I? But I took it on because I didn't know what else. I didn't know another role to have for that.
Right.
So when we have boundaries, when we set boundaries, when we show what boundaries are, the kids, us, we're better at controlling our impulses and our anger. And we have healthier relationships. I think one of the worst fucking things that happened with me and Cameron is when he chose this little punk ass girl who was so fucking unhealthy. And I was like, why would you choose somebody so unhealthy? Like, I've taught you about people, and he chose somebody. You know who I'm talking about. Yeah,
I do know.
Rhymes with cello.
Yeah.
And it shocked me. And he fell for her so hard because she was so cunning. She was very she knew how sweet his heart was. And she played on that and played on that and played on that.
So my grandson is a Scorpio like me. So I feel that there's a part of him that's always going to want to know the deep, dark depths of other human beings.
He does. He likes it.
And he gets in, because I know that's been my experience with people. Like, I can get drawn into their stuff because I'm I want to understand it, or I'm curious,
It's
or maybe
alluring.
it's a voyeuristic type of thing where I'm like, I just want to get inside your head and see how fucked up you truly are.
Oh my gosh.
And then I can sit back and go like, wow, I've never seen that before.
Love it. You're like, take me to the underworld. I want to see.
So I feel like that's part of
Maybe.
the draw for him. And then, but also she was like you said, cunning and manipulative.
Very manipulative,
Yeah.
very, she picked up on
his
him.
first love, was the first girl they really fell for.
Yeah.
But that's a hard lesson to learn right there, and it's unfortunately he still gets it occasionally. She just popped her head back up here a few weeks ago.
Always trying to come back
Yep.
and grab him. So when we do this and we're able to have healthier relationships, these things make our kids, make us, make anybody feel safe. When we know the boundaries, when we understand where our safe place is, what that looks like, and when we know when it's not safe and we can walk away, say no, and we have the vocabulary to be able to do that. So the story that we've been alluding to and like half talking about, when I was in college, we were doing research on, I don't remember exactly what it was. It had to be on boundaries of some kind, but it was interpersonal relationships and how when you grow up in a place that's either safe or not safe, how does that affect how you view the world later? So there was a place in the U.S. that had all the schools in the district had really big fences around their elementary schools. And then there was a group of people that came together and like protesting, like playgrounds don't need fences. And you guys, this is a long time ago, like 80s, early 90s. It was a long time ago. But the reason that the study is still relevant is because it showed something in the children where when the children had fences around their school, they were at the fence. They were staring at people on the sidewalk. They were, watching cars go by. They went all the way to the edge of the boundary because of safety. When all of the group of people that were like, it's so wrong to imprison our children on a playground, when the fences got taken down because enough people voted for it, the kids never went out into the fields to play. They actually stayed really grouped close to the buildings. And the reason that came out, like as they're studying all of this, is because they didn't feel safe going out there. They're like, well, what's to stop us? What happens after that? This is like an unknown territory now. And it's the same fucking field they'd already been playing on. But the fence made them feel safer. That boundary of knowing where they could go to. So the
boundaries also form a protection.
It is, yeah. It lets them know, like, you can go right to this point, right up to the line, but you got to stop there.
Yeah.
They knew that was in school, that is where they played. This was the healthy part. This was the safe part. So once there was nothing, it's like, what stops the outside world from coming in and getting us? What stops something from happening to us? Like, they stayed closer to the building, closer to all of the teachers that were on the playground.
Well, and I don't know when that study was, but if you think about
80s and 90s.
You think about the things that, kids on milk cartons became a pretty common thing at some point in some decade, and I don't remember when it was. Probably early 80s when that started happening, when children being just disappearing became more common, or at least it was on the news more, so you heard about it more.
Right, yeah.
So
I don't know. These things all go together, but we're not really sure, right? And I think that's why we do become like helicopter moms or whatever it's called, where we want to keep our kids safe. You don't want your kid to be on the 5 o'clock news and missing, right? Nobody wants that.
Exactly. No.
Fuck.
Right?
That's 5 podcasts too far away. I can't even think about some shit like that. But we do have a list of the language. I want you guys to hear some of the things, and we're just going to read through these. And I know this is abnormal for a podcast, but I really want you to hear what it sounds like when you speak words that give permission for healthy boundaries, both for you, both for them. And this goes far beyond children to anybody else. If you have people that are constantly crossing your boundaries, and like maybe you say, they suck up all your time, or they call you when they shouldn't at like 12:30 at night. It's like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, I'm not going to be available to you all the time. That's unfair to even think that somebody should be. So there's lots of ways to cross people's boundaries, but you setting them is what's truly important. You cannot expect other people to say, I'm going to treat you really healthy and nice, and you're not going to have to worry about a thing. I'll be so good to you. No. They're going to use as much as they're comfortable with, and they're going to think it's okay because you haven't said anything. Do you want to read some first?
Your voice matters. Never be afraid to use it when something doesn't feel okay.
Does that one stick out for you?
It does stick out for me, yeah.
So
Yeah,
telling
it
somebody
really-
that,
it
you know,
really does.
Yeah. Do you wish that somebody had told you
I
that?
wish somebody had told me that.
Yeah, that's how I feel
Yeah.
about reading some of these. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine is it's okay to say no if something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't have to pretend like it's okay just to fit in. Oh boy, do I relate to that one. You
that
know?
wasn't hard for me. Nobody liked me anyways.
Well, for me, I mean, I started smoking when I was like 13 just to fit in with all the other cool kids
Yeah.
who I thought were cool kids.
Yeah.
And I hated smoking. I hated it. It was disgusting. But I
See?
stood out there at the outside of school because that's what we did. We would
Yeah.
leave school. There was an area right across the street from the school,
And that's what everybody
all
did.
the cool kids were out there like puffing away on their cigarettes.
Oh, my
And here
gosh.
comes me going over there just to fit in. And of course, I smoked. And I was like, this is so gross.
But inside you're going like, look at me.
Yeah, but look at me, I
Not
look so
inside,
cool
I mean on
like
the outside,
everybody
ooh.
else, yeah.
Well, that's the problem with fucking vaping. Like that got into school so fast and it's so easy to hide. I hate it. I hate the vaping thing so much.
What's your next one?
You can let people know how you feel even if it's different from what they expect. I've always had a really hard time telling people when I'm upset because of the people pleasing thing and like wanting everything to just be kosher and be good and to be nice. I was like, I will swallow all my pain so that everybody's comfortable. So my husband has given me a safe place to really speak up when I'm like, listen, I'm just not in a good place. I don't feel well. And telling people that I'm not okay is hard. That's a hard fucking thing to do.
It is a hard thing
It's
to
so
do.
hard to admit it.
I feel like it's delicate too because, well, you're being vulnerable.
Sure.
At that
Very
point.
much.
And then
Yeah.
depending on who you're saying that to, do you feel safe to be vulnerable?
Right. But imagine somebody saying it to you and you're like, "Oh my gosh, how can I
Yeah.
help?" Like the
Yeah.
reception that you get is actually really beautiful.
Sure. Yeah. If a situation makes you nervous, it's okay to leave. Boy, that's trusting your gut, your intuition.
Your intuition, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like this one. Goes back to my same thing. You can say, "I don't like that" if someone's behavior makes you uncomfortable.
Here's one to go along with that.
Mm-hmm.
You can also say to someone, if they cross the line with you, that's not okay with me.
Yeah, that's not okay
and
with
you know
me.
what? That's a whole ending to a conversation. That's a whole ending. I feel like that is an ending to whatever a conversation.
What was
I don't
going
think
on.
you have
Yeah.
to go beyond that. Like you see, that's not okay with me. And if the other person doesn't recognize that or want to accept that that's not okay with you and wants to keep going, blah, 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 with
Yeah.
whatever's going on,
Yeah.
I feel like I would have the right to okay, I already said that's not okay with me, so I'm going to leave this.
Remove
I'm going to
yourself.
remove myself from
Fuck
this
yeah.
situation.
Of course you have the right to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Was it my turn now?
It is your turn now.
I like this one. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to take a break.
That was the one I was just going to
Oh,
read.
fuck. Well, you know me
we're
and
on
my
the-
little
we're on
needing
the-
alone time, needing my own
yes,
time.
Yes,
I truly need it.
Yeah.
I need time
I know.
alone. I need time
so,
away.
Jamie and I have got super close. We've been doing this witch thing for
What? No. We don't even like
4
each other.
years now. It was 4 years ago almost when we started
New Witch
New
Meetup.
Witch Meetup. Yeah, and so we've been working at this and doing meetups and doing all these things together. So we've gotten really close. But I have started to recognize lately where I can recognize that you need some time. You just need some time
need
by
downtime.
yourself. You need to be in your garden and playing
Yeah.
with your dirt with no contact. So I'm
like no phone, no
recognizing it,
nothing.
and then I'm going like, okay, I need to respect that, even though I really have something I want to tell her really bad right now. So I want to like call her up right away. It's like, listen to this, listen to this.
Oh my gosh. That's like when you called me the other day, you're like, "I'm really sorry to bother you." And I was like, "Mom, what? What are you, you're not bothering me. What?" "Well, no, I know you want to be left alone." I was like, "I'm just in a shitty mood. Like, just don't take it personally if I'm not like all bubbly. Okay. That's it." So hormones, periods, women shit, we're not going to be fucking shiny, happy people every day. And I love now that I have people around me that I can actually say that to. I'm having a fucking bad day, you guys. Like, I just don't want to deal with anything. I'm going to be in bed. I'm going to, use my medical marijuana pen and I'm just going to fucking go to bed.
Veg out.
If it's 6 o'clock at night, I don't care. That's what I'm doing.
It's a mental health break.
Fuck
it
yeah.
really is a mental health
Yeah.
break. Yeah.
The
I took
break.
one on Thursday when I left work and went to the beach. That was my mental health break.
See, and you go to the places that feel more healing. You need that time to restore
Yes.
your energy. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. It's basically like seeing the doctor. Dr. Beach, Dr. Garden, Dr. Everything.
So we do have a really good book for you about building resilience. And how do you say this author's last mindset?
Carol Dweck.
Carol Dweck. Mindset by Carol Dweck.
It's such a good book, you guys, if you're really looking at the power of changing how you say things, how you approach problems with kids, with people you work with. It is geared towards some children, because there's another good one, okay? And it's even easier to read, and it has pictures. I love it. It's almost like a cartoon book, but the shit in it is so good, and it's called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk.
Oh.
I fucking love them.
Oh,
they've authored a couple books together, the ladies, and they're so good. And they make the crappiest little cartoon drawings in there, but it gets the fucking point across. And I just love that they didn't go above and beyond with all this, like, ooh, look at us. No, they were like, hey, simple shit works. Like, let's just get this out. Yeah. You can find that book used for under $5. Like, it's been
And that was, again,
pivotal.
What was that called again?
How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk. Mm-hmm. How to Talk So Kids Will Listen.
That's really big, because you want your kids to open up to you.
Yeah.
You know?
On both sides, you want them to listen to you, right? That's every parent's, my kid don't listen to me. All right. Yeah. Well, are you listening to them?
Yeah.
How are you listening
to them?
Yeah. You know, the last thing, Mom, I would really say, and we probably don't have to mention too much on this, because most people that I've met, they're in the witchcraft and spiritual thing. This is what we all go for. Create an environment of love, you know? Unconditional love and support. That's what I think most people who get into this, that's what they're looking for.
Yes,
so providing
absolutely.
it to others is kind of innate.
Absolutely.
I think of all the women I've met in witchcraft, that's not something they struggle with.
Yeah.
They do not struggle with that. I think that, you know, trauma can really have an effect and make us feel like we're not enough, and creating that environment of unconditional love, which means that you love them no matter what. You don't have to like their shit they do, but you love them no matter what. And you can say that. You don't be like, I got to accept their bad behavior. No, you don't. You say, I don't like any of that, but I love you. Yeah. And I'll try to hear you out. Mm-hmm. You know, creating an environment of unconditional love, we really do ensure that our children grow up feeling secure and valued and worthy, even when they make mistakes. So allowing your kids to make the mistakes and then being there for them. Be like, yeah, how'd that go? No. Do you wish somebody would have told you not to do it? Do you wish you knew something before then? Like, what could you have done different? And not in a passive aggressive way or a patronizing way, but just let's explore this. Did you think it was going to go wrong before you did it? Because your intuition, and I've talked to Cameron about this, your intuition was actually trying to tell you, don't do it. Don't go over there. Don't do it. Yeah. And he's heard it. He's like, I knew. He's like, I just knew I shouldn't go there. Yeah. And, you know, he shouldn't have. So I think to show love daily, whether it's to children, your spouse, your family, whoever, to show love daily, practice listening to them. Okay? Just listening. Not trying to solve their problems.
Not trying to solve problems.
Not trying to fucking
not
get
listening. And then also like
heard.
Listening to solve. Like you're listening for the thing that you can be like, oh, I got the answer for you. Yeah. I've got the answer for you. I know exactly what you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, I mentioned this because this was really important for me. I know that it's my love language. Offering physical affection, like hugs, sitting with somebody, just being close. We have electrical impulses within our body that when two people touch, you share that electricity. So if they're unwell and you're well, you really can share like your positive energy flowing from you to them. Then it's remind them of their worth. Remind them that they came here as a soul with a purpose and they want to learn something. They want to do something with themselves. And this is just all the mundane bullshit, that there's actually a bigger thing that they can do with themselves. Lastly, my last book. So I've only got 2 books of these. I love the 5 love languages. Mm-hmm. Okay. They actually have the 5 love languages for children. Understanding how your child feels loved. Because if they don't match, this is so pivotal. Cameron and I have talked about this since he was very little. How do you perceive that I love you? How do you know I love you, Cameron?
Yeah,
what is it?
Boy, that's big.
You know? And that way I knew giving him, like, what if he was a stuff kid? I'm so averse to stuff. But if my child was like, when you give me presents, I feel really loved. It doesn't mean you need to spend a lot of money, but you need to give them little trinkets of love. That's what they think is love. Mm-hmm. And you guys, I think we're truly born with our love languages. I don't know. I don't know that there's like raising them in different ways makes them different ways, but asking them how they perceive love is so big so that you can love them the way that they perceive it. And you should do it for yourself too. And then one more thing. There's actually a really cool app that goes along with the 5 love languages called Love Nudge. It's very cute. And you and your spouse, person, whoever, answer questions about how you perceive love and all of that. And then the app connects the two of you. Like you say, oh, this is my person. And you have a love tank and you fill it with like things that you do that's their love
cute.
language. And you can fill theirs with things that you do. Like
that's really cute.
Plan a date night or, it's very cute. Love Nudge. And it's free.
I love that.
It's a cool app. Yeah. Tony and I did it for a little while I was in the study. Like I was studying other people's relationships. So I was like, hey, let's do this. Cause I can't tell them about their own stuff. Right. Cause it's a fucking research study. So Tony and I did it for maybe like a year and then we would joke about it. Cause it became, I don't know, just funny. I was like, is your love tank empty? Are you empty? Oh no.
I think that's something good that you could fall back on though in your relationship.
For sure.
If there came a time when you're not really paying that much attention to what's going on with the other person and you're starting to feel disconnected, that could help you really reconnect with them.
And know what makes them feel special and loved,
exactly, like I think that can also change.
I think it can definitely change. I think that mine 10 years ago is different than mine now, possibly. I don't want him to take me to a new brewery. Now I'm like, can we go to the mountains? Can we get a cabin in the woods somewhere? For sure. Yeah.
So I think that's
we're gonna close, aren't we? Oh my gosh, what are we at? Almost an hour.
We're over an hour. Sorry, this was a little bit longer, but I feel like we got some really good points across that that offered you our listeners, and we thank you very much for that, by the way. Different points of view on different things. You got mother, daughter, and then you got grandma and mother and aunt and all of the and daughter to
all of our
like
roles,
all of these roles that we played
roles.
And all of this across time, all of these things that we've seen, and you can look back on them and really come to understand that there's these practical I almost feel like it's easier looking back as a parent going like, oh man, if I'd have known that.
That's why that reflection process is so beneficial, because once you reflect and you learn, you can go forward with more, right? So imagine you reflect on all the things that you don't think you did well when you were raising us. You could change all that now. You could do the things now, you know, which I mean, I probably said it when I was younger. I thought you were great then. I think you're great now. I don't know. The 20 years I didn't know you, I didn't think you were great because I didn't know you. I heard things, but no, I love who you are and who you're choosing to be.
And that I'll tell you, when your kids tell you that you were a good mom, I think that's the greatest thing in the world. Yeah.
Well, you saved my life. I mean, for sure. A lot worse could have happened to me if you had not been so open and honest with me and compassionate and honest. Like I go back to the honesty thing because that was part of keeping us safe, because you couldn't be there for us all the time, as a single parent. So it was like you had to give us all the lessons and be both parents. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, in closing, these talking points offer a blend of personal healing, emotional growth, and practical parenting tips to help you raise resilient, confident children while breaking generational cycles of trauma. And if you need any of the resources, please reach out to us. Like, I will say them again or put them somewhere, but those are some great ones. It's for anybody to read anytime. It would really help you grow. All right, you guys. We love you.
Until next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.